Welcome to Talladega International Speedway, where we are here for race number 2 of round number 2 of the Darkmatter Designs playoffs here on Full Throttle TV. I'm joined in the booth again tonight by Chris Speer. Chris, this is a wild card race. No other race on the schedule is like Talladega or Daytona, but Talladega is right in the middle of the playoffs.
That it is, Jared. Talladega, an insane track to be in the playoffs, just because of the massive amount of battling that we'll see here tonight. This track, it's going to be an incredible race to watch here. These drivers all going to be battling to get a lock into the next round of the playoffs. You
see Darren Bruce on track now, but let's take a look at our race information heading into tonight's event here at Talladega Super Speedway. 2.66 miles, so that's 2 2/3 miles. 97 degrees is the track temperature, 75 air, so pretty nice in the car tonight for these drivers. Clear with a wind, just a gentle wind coming at the tail of these guys down the back straightaway out of the west. So that's going to be something to watch out for. Let's take a look at our championship standings as well. And this is where it gets interesting, Chris. Bernard Person at the top of this list. Then you got Richie Coy, Dale Nearad, McMullen, Helm, Terrell. They're all feeling pretty good. Same with Ralph Nolan, but everybody else behind there, very tight. With Dean Doucet, a massive 9 points behind Wayne Grossi heading into Talladega in the Roval.
And Jared, the easiest way to lock yourself in if you're those drivers below that cutoff line is easy. Just go out here and win. Talladega's not a hard track to win at now, is it?
Yeah, winning at Talladega is a wild card. We've seen that 100 times. Many first-time winners here at Talladega Super Speedway this year. Jason Speer actually made his playoff berth by winning at Talladega for the first time in his career. He is not here tonight and unfortunately was eliminated in the first round of the playoffs. But we look at Bill Benedict. He is top of the charts right now. And, Chris, you look at some of these lap times. I mean, you're talking about 50.03 for Brian Helm as he goes to the top of the board.
And Jared, these are just qualifying laps here at Talladega. Once these guys start running together in a pack here, the speeds will be a little bit quicker. But not only that, Jared, but everyone will be basically underneath a blanket here. An incredible speedway. These drivers are going to be battling within a second of each other all night long, from first all the way back to 36th position.
And we look at some of these drivers. I mean, the Speer Motorsports guys, first, second, and fourth right now. Troy Torgerson goes across the line. He's going to get his lap into the top 5. Lane Allen also out there. He is on his final lap, Chris. And you look at these drivers. Any driver right now, you look at it, you got the Roval next. Is this a must-win for those drivers outside the top 8 in points?
It's not necessarily a must-win, Jared, but it would be a lot easier going into the Roval knowing that you've locked yourself in. Torgerson, who probably was looked at as the favorite going into this round to actually block his way into the next round, ended up not being able to do that just because of a little bit of unfortunate luck. Now he sits down in 7th in our point standings here. Sorry, not 7th. I believe he is 7th and has to pretty much find a way to get himself up into the top 8 here. The easiest way to do that, just get up here, run up front, and hopefully take the win here at the end. That'll be the easiest way. He'll be looking to do that as well as the other drivers outside of that top 8.
And don't forget Bernard Person, the only driver safe. He is locked into the next round, so he has already punched his ticket to the round of 8. Looking around, we got Josh Johnson. Looks like he is still out there. He has just completed his lap. Several drivers electing not to take a lap. Gil Gock, Jeff Bratton, Chad Lang, and Zach McDaniel either not attempting a lap or missed the chance to take a lap as the qualifying now is over. So Ronnie Royal going to be our pole sitter tonight. And we'll take a look at all that stuff in a minute here. But, Chris, playoffs at Talladega. We saw today, actually, in the NASCAR race today, you saw we're not going to have any rain influences here in the sim. But, my goodness, how hard can you race at Talladega if you're one of these guys that's above the cut line?
Well, Jared, it's going to be a little bit of whether or not you feel that you can be aggressive. Bernard Person, he's the only one really up there in the top bit here that really can afford to be aggressive here tonight. Everyone else, while they need to be there at the end and fighting to actually get the win, they actually need to make it to the end. That's the most important part. I think we're going to have a few drivers that are just going to ride around here, just logging laps at the beginning of this race, kind of playing it safe. And that's going to lead to one of my first keys of this race, one of three. And that's just being there at the end. That's going to be the biggest thing to do. And in order to do that, different strategies. Some guys are going to ride around on the back. Some drivers are going to ride around and hope that the big one happens behind them. Second key here is going to be pretty simple. Well, kind of, as long as you consider 180 mile an hour down to 55 to pit road is going to be easy while running with upwards to 10 to 12 drivers coming to pit road. Getting into pit road here, it may look big, but it's incredibly difficult to get down to pit road speed here, Jared, especially when you're coming with a pack. And then the third thing is just going to be about being aggressive at the end. With 5 laps to go, we know that this track likes to get to a one groove racetrack along the top here, but you're going to have to be able to make it work and go into dangerous situations to be able to win this race here tonight.
Exactly right, Chris. Great keys to the race. The other thing here at Talladega in FTSR on iRacing history, we have yet to have a repeat winner. We have 3 active winners in the race tonight, Bernard Person, Dean Doucet, and Sherwood Williford. 2 other ones that are active but not here tonight, David Hensley and Jason Speer. So, Chris, you look at those guys, doesn't bode well for Dean Doucet. He's the only playoff driver that has a win here that isn't locked into the next round. And we haven't had a repeat victory. Can Dean Doucet pull out a victory here tonight at Talladega?
It's absolutely possible, Jared. Here at Talladega, pretty much anyone can come into this race as an underdog and end up on top. I mean, just look at today's race in the NASCAR Cup Series with Bubba Wallace. He may not have exactly been considered a favorite to win that race, but yet was able to walk around as the winner at the end of the day.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens, and we hope you guys are here and enjoy the coverage we're going to have on Full Throttle TV. But we are going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back after these messages. All right, we're back here live at Talladega Superspeedway where the drivers are getting lined up on the grid, getting ready to go. So let's take a look at our starting lineup here tonight at Talladega. On pole is Ronnie Royal with a time of 49.96, just beating out his teammate Dale Nearad. Row number 2, Bernard Persson and Rachel Hunt. Row number 3 will be Brian Helm and Troy Torgerson. Row 4 will be Darren Bruce and Bill Benedict. And row number 5 will be Randy McCanney and Stephen Vrooman. And then, Chris, we got row number 6.
Row number 6 is going to be Lane Allen and Adam Newton. Row 7, Sherwood Williford and Dean Doucet, who's looking to come up from back of the pack to get a chance into the top 8 for the next round. Behind them, Richie Coy and Casey McMullen, Andrew Poliski, Mark Figueroa, Brandon Elder, and Joshua Johnson, rounding out your top 20.
And look back at the rest of this group. Row number 11, we got TJ Bartell and Bobby Terrell. Row 12, Steve Loomis and Wayne Grossi. So 2 playoff contenders back in the back half of the field. Mike Watts and Kenneth Schultz in row 13, along with Ralph Nolan and Donnie Staubitz in row 14. Randall Ballard and another playoff driver, Brodie Hannah, in row number 15. And we take a look at the rest of the field here.
Tony Solari, Josh Mayhew, Zach McDaniel, and Gil Gach will round out your field here tonight.
We also have Jeff Bratton, who is did not grid up, so he's not on our grid there, but he is in fact in the race here tonight.
And Jared, I wouldn't be too worried about the drivers that are starting in the back of the pack here. With this track here, it really does not matter. You'll easily find your way back up to the front of the field here pretty early on if you can use the draft in such a way to get yourself up there. What I'd be most concerned about is those Speer Motorsports drivers all basically being up in the top 5 here to start this race. They can hook up here, Jared, and make it a lot difficult to get around them, kind of making it like a colleague in the Xfinity Series with Justin Haley, Jeb Burton, and AJ Allmendinger.
These drivers tonight, 94 laps. They will have to make it 47 to make it on one stop. So it's going to be interesting to see how this is going to turn out for these drivers. They can't make 47. It's a 2-stop race guaranteed without any cautions. But here we go. Ronnie Royal and Dale Nearad will lead them down here to start the race off. I mean, like you said, Chris, you got Bernard Persson. You got Brian Helm. So 3 Speer drivers lined up on the inside line. Going to be interesting to see what they can do with that momentum.
Pace car making its way off the track here, but don't fret. The Geico restart zone still quite a bit ahead. This track start-finish line happening about 300 yards after the middle of the triangle here makes for an interesting race here tonight.
The anticipation builds because it is quite a drive down to that corner. And now we hear the drivers down there. Flagman pulls the flag out, and we are green flag racing here at Talladega.
That inside groove a little bit more together on the start, but the outside drivers are bunched up a little bit tighter than the inside line with a few more drivers dead even going through too.
Still double file, a little bit sparse toward the back of the field. Bill Benedict moves down to the low side, gets in line back deep in the field as these drivers make their way through the back straightaway for the first time tonight. Dale Nearad still getting a shove from Rachel Hunt. Troy Torgerson there, but look at the draft by Bernard Persson and Ronnie Royal into turn number 3.
Bernard Persson giving the 24 a huge shove to get him out in front of the 03 of Mike Watts. This driver here really wants to get up there and push his teammate. He doesn't necessarily need to get up here and win this race, but it'd be nice if he's able to get one of his other playoff teammates in the next round.
There's all kinds of stuff going on. Jumping on TJ Bartell. He's back there in 23rd position, so you can see only about the top 10, Chris. The top 15 side by, or top 10 rows, I should say, side by side. Everybody else single file already.
Single file, and you can see you got a couple cars up there by their lonesome on that outside line, falling back, desperately looking for a hole to get in on the inside there. But Jared, when you get all these cars lined up on that bottom groove, you can actually create a slower pace around this track.
Rachel Hunt dropping all the way to the back. She's 3 wide. Nobody helping her out. Maybe just attempting to drop to the back on her own. So it's got Ronnie Royal leading the race. Bernard Persson in second. Brian Helm in third. Then you got Darren Bruce, Torgerson, your top 5 right now, Chris, as last time by. Ronnie Royal is starting to dictate this race.
That he is. Give him the Pied Piper position of the 24 in the front right there with Bernard Persson behind him. Bernard Persson really doing a pretty good job of getting to the back of that 24 and shoving him down the back straightaway.
Adam Newton in that orange Toyota. He is leading that outside line. He is quite a ways back, currently shown back in about 12th position. I can't count. He's got Mark Figueroa on his back bumper. A little bit of bump drive into the turns, folks. That's not going to work out very well. Adam Newton did a good job holding on there.
That he did. Now, Jared, one thing here in the sim world that you don't necessarily have to worry about in the real world, netcode. A lot of aggressive side drafting can be done at tracks like this, but unfortunately that comes with a price. If you're not exactly on the same page as your competitor, you can get up into them without ever actually touching them, it would seem, on the screen. That can play a huge factor here tonight as these drivers are going to look to be aggressive towards the end of this race.
Mark Figueroa giving every bump to Adam Newton. They're going to get in line. Leave Rachel Hunt out there. Josh Johnson, Kenneth Schultz, and Mike Watts, the only drivers, Chris, left on the outside line right now.
And just watch how quickly Rachel Hunt loses momentum as those two drivers dive down to the bottom groove here. Pretty phenomenal, to say the least. You could see it right there. She almost lost 4 or 5 positions as soon as they jumped to the inside.
Mike Watts has abandoned that, so that's only 3 drivers on the outside line, Chris, and already 5 laps into the race. We saw this back at Talladega in the spring. Already single file. Kenneth Schultz is going to dip from the top line. That's going to leave Johnson and Rachel Hunt out by themselves. So this is going to be a single file line from here on out.
And those two drivers will quickly learn that they want to be in that bottom groove here, just to log lap here. Kind of a smart move early on, Jared, to get single file here and just whittle away at the laps.
Gil Gach did not make the grid. He is listed as out of the race. So no points for the 85 tonight. But everybody else doing a good job. You see them all the way back. This is about the widest camera angle we got. And it is single file for 35 drivers.
Single file, and there's a lot of room in between each driver. That shows you that these drivers are really just trying to get around here with a little bit of peak to the outside there for someone, but decides to dip back down inside that lower groove there. Kind of a smart play. Don't want to be too aggressive early on, just end your race in the pits.
Looking out the back of one of our playoff contenders, Wayne Grossi. He's got his teammate TJ Bartel lined up in behind him. Up in front of him is Brandon Elder, in the 18 machine. And Chris, you can listen to him. Well, we can listen to them, and you can tell that the throttle, a lot of not really full throttle action going on from Wayne Grossi back here running in 20th.
No, Jared, you certainly can't if you're this back, just because of the way that the draft will pull you up to the car in front of you. Doesn't make sense to go full throttle here. And that can also be a measure to help you out later in the race. If you're worried about fuel strategies, it kind of will help you save fuel if you're able to stay out of the throttle and just rely on the draft to keep up with the car in front of you.
And Chris, you talked about a little bit at the top of our broadcast. What did Troy Torgerson need to do? You said just get out front and stay there, and that's where he's at. He is in 5th position, right behind Darren Bruce, right in front of Steven Verman. 3rd highest playoff driver right now. 2nd highest if you exclude Bernard Persson, who's already punched his ticket.
And that's just a quiet way to get around this track. It's interesting to see, though, as we're following along here in the single file row here with these different drivers, you can just see how a little bit of uneasy these cars are as we go down the back straightaway here. You can see them kind of sliding left to right here. No one can really keep it in the exact same tire groove of the car in front of them.
We do have a little bit of separation. This is Donnie Staubitz. He has dropped back off the back of the 05 of Josh Johnson. Not a lot of gap there, Chris, as they come down the back straightaway, but just a little bit of a gap. Now they're going to start kind of closing that back up. But is that a strategy maybe to try to get a run built here by Donnie Staubitz?
I don't necessarily think that it's a ploy to get a run. I think it's actually him trying to learn how quickly they can fall in and catch the cars in front of them for later on. It's just kind of seeing what you got right now. As we got a car on the outside, and that looks like that is the car of, I thought it was
Brandon
Adam
Elder.
Newton, but it does not look like it. Brandon Elder, that's correct. He finds himself back in front of the 88 machine. Luckily, he's able to tuck in there, not lose too much time, but you can see exactly how quickly you can get left here in a hurry.
Brodie Hannah, as that was going on, Chris, Brodie Hannah moves to the top groove, and he's got Zach McDaniel coming with him. Brodie Hannah decides to abandon that run, but Zach McDaniel, independent driver, doesn't run a lot of cup races. He finished third at Talladega last time we were here, so you got to watch on that purple number 42 machine, dropping back to 32nd position. At the very back of this pack, we don't get a chance to talk about him a lot, but that is Jeff Bratton making a kind of a rare start this year. Been in and out, but Jeff, longtime member of the league, has had some personal issues dealing with it, and glad to see Bratton in that number 55 machine back out here as he is at the tail end of the field just trying to wait it out for the first pit stops.
And really, Jared, that's what everyone in this field is looking to do, is just ride around, picking up a position here, a position there as they can, or really get someone out of the bottom lane and pretty much let the entire field go by them here on lap 10. These drivers doing everything they possibly can to just relax, if that sounds like it's possible.
Exactly right, Chris. These guys just taking it easy. We expect that these drivers can't make it on one stop tonight, but it is possible. And that we still have about at least 35 laps, or at least 30 laps before we'll see anybody come down pit road. Race right now led by Ronnie Royal from the point. He has led every lap so far, 11 laps in. And it's been all Speer, the first three cars, Speer Motorsports. Then you have Darren Bruce, Torgerson, Vrooman, Benedict, McCanny stacked up. So a group of Fords, a couple different teams in there. Lane Allen, who just got eliminated last round from the playoffs. He's in ninth. He nearly won at Daytona to start the year off. And then behind him, Dale Nearad, who started second, Chris, but he did not get the memo with his team. He wasn't able to drop down and stay up there.
No, he wasn't, and that really put a hurt for him. Now he's riding back here behind Lane Allen in the 14 machine, really just trying to figure out what to do. Jared, as we're going through here, just logging these laps, these drivers are talking to one another, trying to figure out when they're going to come down to pit road. You don't want to come down to pit road here by yourself. You want to have as many friends going into pit road as possible so you don't lose the draft here. You can really make up a lot of time or lose a lot of time if you you lose a draft here in the pit cycle.
Chris, we've seen this before. We kind of talked about Donnie Stowitz, and now we see Bill Benedict. He's kind of lost, I wouldn't say lost touch, but there's been a gap that's opened up between Bill Benedict and Steven Vrooman, and even his teammate, Randy McCanny, right behind him. What's going on there? Is that a handling issue that's maybe causing these guys to lose some time in the turns? Is it maybe like you got all the gas too much? What's going on there when we see these gaps opening up in the pack?
It could be a little bit of handling issues, Jared. These drivers just need that extra air on the car to keep it planted into the track. But it can also just be that they're trying to play safe. There's no reason to get up to the back of the bumper of the car in front of you this early on. We've seen it in the real race today. When you get two drivers bump drafting, it's safe. When you get three, not so safe anymore, as the car in front tends to get turned around. You don't really want to have that happen early on, and I think that's why you see a lot of these drivers hanging back. However, the 91 here of Ken Schultz, he's kind of getting dragged back by the cars behind him racing double file.
Yeah, we saw him down on the apron in the tri-oval, and that exposed the gap there. Everybody else pretty much knows the tail, but we have a little bit of a pack forming up behind him. Josh Johnson challenged by Randall Ballard, Brodie Hannah, and Tony Solari on the high side there. It's only those three cars that are trying to make it work on that outside line, Chris.
Trying to make it work, but unfortunately they're going to fall back as they're not really that tight together. They don't have the numbers, Jared. Just not going to work out for those threes. They're going to fall all the way to the back of this field here, but that'll give them the opportunity to see what they need to see going forward in this race and what it'll take to be able to make that work going forward.
And that'll put Brodie Hannah as the last running playoff driver all the way back there in 34th as he's going to duck down on Randall Ballard, and his teammate Tony Solari are going to go ahead and push by. Randall Ballard doesn't look like he had a car capable of leading that group, unfortunately, just from what I could tell, but no negative to Randall there at all. We look about back up in the middle of the field. Brandon Elder still sticking out his nose a little bit, but can't get anything. We got Casey Mullen down there on the apron. And again, Chris, we've seen these guys get down the apron, and that's kind of exposing up a gap.
Yeah, it is, Jared. It's an interesting little strategy or play by these drivers by doing that. It's really disrupting the airflow on the cars behind them. It puts Dean Doucet kind of at a disadvantage there behind him. And also, it's not helping the 71 as he's kind of falling off away from Dale Nearad by doing that. Just not really a smart move, but it's also maybe not a move that he's really trying to do if the handling of that car is just causing it to do that.
Casey Mullen, as you saw there before the camera switched over, but beautiful paint on that number 71, like a Halloween throwback, or not throwback, but a Halloween style paint. That is just an awesome paint job by Casey Mullen, along with the pink breast cancer awareness. And he's also got the playout banner. One of the few drivers that actually implemented the playout banners. Really helps us out here in the booth when we're trying to find you on the track. But it is awesome to see that paint. Very good looking paint there, just ahead of his teammate Dean Doucet. And we know these Blackwire Motorsports guys can make something happen. But Chris, we also have Randall Ballard has gone to pit road. Yeah, Randall Ballard on pit road, taking tires already. This is a very strange pit stop for Randall Ballard.
It's strange because he doesn't have any help, Jared. That's what's going to make it the most interesting set of circumstances here for Ballard. He's going to end up coming off of pit road with no help. He's easily going to get swallowed up by this pack here. And really, Jared, not a smart move unless we end up with a quick caution.
Ballard actually is still on pit road there. You see him in the yellow 35 on our track map. So something happened to the 56 machine. That's probably why he let Brodie Hannah and Tony Solari kind of drop out there. But you see that we have kind of a Dean Doucet and Sher Wilford kind of by themselves in the middle of this pack, but they've gotten that thing gotten together again. And Chris, you talked about 3 cars bump drafting. Brian Helm nearly did that. He had to get down the apron to take evasive action to not run into his 2 teammates in front of him.
That he did, and you could see the separation that it created between the top 2 drivers and Brian Helm back to Darren Bruce behind him in the 06 machine. Just a little bit of a tough situation here because you don't want to hit your teammate too difficult or too hard, especially if they're giving a push to the car in front of them. Just a little uneasy feeling if you're that leader, knowing that you've got 2 teammates behind you that are locking bumpers.
And you see, once again, not much going on in terms of racing right now. Everybody just kind of feeling it out. And we've seen this before, Chris. We saw it at Daytona. We saw it at Talladega back in the spring. Not a lot of racing really goes on until that first pit stop. Depending on if it's a 2-stop or a 1-stop race, then the wick just gets lit up to the past the max.
That it does, Jared. And these drivers, they know it. They're waiting for it. They're eager for it. But they're also thinking about their friends. Who is it that they're going to draft with to be able to get up to the front? The Speer Motorsports guys, they kind of have an advantage with 3 of them already locked together there in the front of the pack. Troy Torgerson back there in 5th. Doesn't have a teammate that close to him. He has to go all the way back to, I believe it's 7th position. Actually, I guess there's only 1 car separating them. But that makes it all the more difficult because now to do that, they have to figure out a way to push out Vrooman in the 00 car so that those 3 teammates can lock up together. Makes it all that more difficult for Darren Bruce, who doesn't have a teammate in the top 10 with him as well.
On board Troy Torgerson, you can just see lets out the gas right there, and he's definitely not full throttle. Let's see if we can see any of that information here. And yeah, he is full throttle. That whole circle is lit up. If that circle is not all the way lit up, you'll see a little bit of a drop in his speed there. 195. We saw some 200s in there, Chris.
Yeah, that we did, and that wasn't even that fast of a lap. You're looking at his best lap, the 48.56, compared to his last lap was a 48.79. That just shows the difference in these drivers when they're kind of just riding around here, almost half a second or at least 0.2 that lap slower than their best lap here.
199, 200 at the end of the straightaway. So quite a lot of speed still in these vehicles. Maybe contrary to popular belief, these guys are cooking out there. A little bit of gap again. Bill Benedict dropping off the back of Steven Vrooman. Could be just trying to get that car cooled down as well, as these guys will run as much tape as they possibly can. Right now, everybody is all in the same pack. We have lost 1, and that is Randall Ballard, Gil Gock failed to start the event. So we got 34 drivers still out here. Tony Solari at the shotgun of the field with his teammate and driver that's just outside the playoff cut line, Brodie Hannah, right in front of him.
And Brodie Hannah knows how important this race is. I looked to him after that first pit stop to start being aggressive, to get up towards the front. Right now, he's pretty content being in the back of this, hoping that if something happens, it happens in front of him, and he sees it in enough time to slow down.
Jeff Bratton just ahead of him, Josh Mayhew just ahead of him. We move up just a little bit further, and we got Ralph Nolan in the number 95 Employernomics Chevrolet. He is the second farthest back playoff driver, but he came in with about a 13-point buffer. So, I mean, it's all evaporated at this point. If we did some live standings, we had that ability. But Ralph Nolan just taking a little bit easy tonight.
Taking it easy, but he's also having to peak that car out in clean air, running a little bit warm, it would seem. He's not able to really close up on the back bumper of the car in front of him. And Jared, that is all about play and strategy for later in the race. If he's able to run that thing a little bit warmer with a little bit more taper right now, towards the end of the race, he'll have a lot faster car and be able to make some more aggressive moves. Look for him to also try to do whatever he can to get himself up there. Because as you said, those 13 points, it wasn't enough, and he knew it.
Yeah, and right behind him, Zach McDaniel. Those two had a little contact coming to the line last week at Las Vegas. They did talk it out and seemed to be okay, but it's always interesting when the guy that you kind of might have had a little bit of an incident with shows up right in your mirror or right behind you coming in the next race.
And Jared, you mentioned that the 42 machine kind of playing spoiler last week, or at least attempting to do so. Las Vegas, with a very fast car, doesn't always get an opportunity to run in this series. Here tonight, just trying to play spoiler again, that just shows that these playoff drivers have a competition from other drivers that are not in the playoffs that they have to worry about. It's not one of those guarantees. If you're in the playoffs, you're going to be up there winning the race.
Moving on up to our next playoff driver, 22nd, Rachel Hunt. Rachel started in 4th place, Chris, but she's dropped back to 22nd. And you saw her at the beginning, went up all the way up to the wall, 3 wide, allowed herself to get past, and kind of found a groove right there in front of one of her de facto teammates, Steve Loomis, in the 17. But Rachel Hunt on the outside looking in as far as points go, Chris. She's just on the cut line with a 4-point advantage.
And Jared, you mentioned points here. That's great and lovely, but none of these drivers are thinking about that right now at the moment. Every one of them knows that the easiest way to do it is go up here and get a win. And they're just trying to figure out what strategy is going to get them up to the front here later in this race to be able to have an opportunity to lock themselves into the next round of the playoffs. You mentioned it. Next week, Charlotte Roval. A lot of these different playoff drivers don't necessarily would call themselves road course kings. So they want to go out here tonight and try to get them in a better position to be able to go into the Roval next week and not have to worry about what may be.
And apologies, Rachel Hunt is actually below the cut line by 6 points, not above it by 6 points. She is in 10th place. The bottom 4, Doucet, Torgerson, Hunt, and Hannah right now. And not as they run, but coming into tonight's race. We move up just a little bit. 19th place, Wayne Grossi. He is the cut line driver, Chris. He has 24 points behind our point leader, and then he is 6 points above the cut line right now. Wayne Grossi, actually, if he finished right here, I think he'd be pretty happy, and that would probably be a decent night for the 7 machine.
I think you're right, Jared. He's kind of been the sleeper in this playoffs, as he's easily been able to kind of float underneath the radar, just barely making it into the playoffs to begin with, and then into the round of 12. Now here tonight, trying to figure out a way to get himself into the round of 8. He may be kind of the underdog of the playoffs, if you will, but he's been one of the most consistent as far as keeping his car clean all season, and that's really what's gotten him up to this far into the playoffs already.
Well, Chris, now let me ask you this about Wayne Grossi. He has been on a little bit of a, he's had some good finishes, but not great finishes. Top 15s, only 1 top 10 in the last 6 races. His last top 5 came back in May at Darlington. Does that concern you now that he's going into the Roval? He's on the bubble, and his best race at a road course was 8th at Watkins Glen, but Sonoma not so great.
It's certainly concerning, yes, for sure. He's going to look to do whatever he can tonight to not have to worry about the Roval next week. But rest assured, this 7 bunch, they're going to go out and start practicing hard as they possibly can for next week, knowing that their playoff hopes rely on it.
Moving on up through the field here. And let's see, our next driver up on the list is Richie Coy. Richie was up front during that race. He's looking underneath Bobby Terrell, or at least I thought he was. He is not. And Richie Coy got a win in the first round of the playoffs, and now he's kind of back to square one all over again, Chris. Richie Coy, known for his short track ability. What can he do? And we've seen him do good at road courses, but just hasn't been able to seal the deal as far as grabbing a win in a road course yet.
He's not been able to secure a win, but I know from experience that Richie Coy has already been practicing at the Roval. I've seen it already some this week when catching up with these drivers. He knows that if he can't get it done here tonight due to the unfortunate circumstances, that he'll have to do it at the Roval. And I talked to him at one point last week. He said that the problem with Talladega is that he worried that he would get caught up in someone else's accident. It's so easy to do here at this track. So he's been focusing more so on the road course, trying to know that he can secure himself in there. It's a little bit easier to do at road courses. It's kind of all in the driver's hands at those type of tracks.
And apologies, Richie did not win in this playoff. There's so many series going on. He finished second last week and second at Richmond. And then he also has a second at Road America and a third at Watkins Glen. So he can definitely get it done at the road courses. So it's going to be interesting to see what Richie Coy can do. But coming into right in front of him is our regular season points champion, Bobby Terrell, Chris. And Bobby has not probably had the playoffs he's wanted. He's sitting 6th place right now in points, only about 9 points above the cut line. Not exactly comfortable for Bobby Terrell in the 5.
No, it isn't, Jared. He came into this playoffs looking like a for sure favorite between him and Troy Torgerson, and it really looks like those playoff points from winning the races has kind of served him very well going through these playoffs. If it hadn't been for those playoff points, he may not be up as he is currently in the playoff standings. So he's not had all those good results here in the last couple of races, looking to turn that around here tonight.
Yeah, Bobby Terrell, first round of the playoffs, a 5th, and a 31st. And then he finished 17th at Las Vegas, currently runs 18th. And Bobby Terrell has not won a race since Auto Club back in April, but has a couple 3 second-place finishes. His last one came in May. So he is a driver that, while he hasn't won more than one race, he's only won one race, he has finished in the top 5 16 times, by far the most in the Cup Series, along with 22 top 10s. So Bobby Terrell, very consistent and solidly consistent driver. Next guy up, Dean Doucet. We've talked about him a lot. 3-time champion in the Cup Series, Chris. Has not had the season I think that he's wanted this year. And he's kind of found himself on the back 9 here. And we got a driver coming down pit road. Who is that? That is Darren Bruce heading into pit.
Darren Bruce, and it looks like 2 other drivers can come make that 5 total onto pit road here. That means he's not going to be left alone. But, Jared, it's lap 31. I wasn't expecting these drivers for another 9 laps at least.
Darren Bruce, Mark Figueroa, Josh Johnson, and Wayne Grossi, part of that group. I'm a little bit surprised Wayne Grossi did not pit with his team and has come down with the K2B Motorsports drivers. So, Chris, the window apparently is open. That's early.
It is, Jared. I definitely was expecting them to make it to lap 40 before we started to see pit stops. It'll be interesting to see if the leaders elect to go ahead and pit as well, or if they'll run their tanks as close to empty as possible here. And
here
we've got another set of group coming in, a huge group coming into pit road here.
Ooh, Casey Mullen locks it down. That's going to be close. Casey Mullen may have sped coming in pit road. We got Allen, we got Doucet, Williford, Coy, Terrell, Brandon Elder, Rachel Hunt, Steve Loomis is in, Kenneth Schultz, Donnie Staubitz, all on pit road. Donnie Staubitz misses his pit. He's got the back up. Rachel Hunt, good driving out of the pits. And Chris, I believe, yes, Richie Coy missed his pits. He has missed his pits, and he's going to have to go back around.
Richie Coy making a huge mistake here early on. He's going to go a lap down before he's even able to circle around to get back to his pit stall, Jared. That's going to be a huge hurdle for him the rest of the night. Now we have the rest of the frontline esports drivers coming in behind him with Kenneth Schultz as well, Vrooman behind him. And off the track is Andrew Poliski in the 96.
Andrew Poliski may have... Oh, and Zach McDaniel's in the grass. What has happened to Zach McDaniel there? We just missed it. We'll see if we can get a replay in a minute. Let's check back in with our race leaders, and they're passing some drivers that have just came out of the pits. So Ronnie Royal leading that group with Bernard Persson, Brian Helm, Dale Nearad, Adam Newton, Jeff Bratton. They have not stopped. They are the only drivers not to stop yet. So 6 drivers yet to pit. Here they come off turn number 4. What are the Speer guys going to do? They're on pit road right now.
And Jared, they separated themselves out really nicely as Brian Helm locks up the tires all the way to the cone here, trying to get as much as he can out of that machine. These 5 drivers here that just entered right now, Jared, they're going to be looking to get out together as quickly as possible and to continue their kind of control of this race.
Jeff Bratton is also in, so 32nd place, that is Josh Mayu. 33rd is Casey Mullen, who did get a penalty, Chris. So Casey Mullen did get a speeding penalty. 7th place is going to be our de facto leader. So let's leave the track map up. They are coming through 3 and 4 right now. Leaders on pit road. Troy Torgerson leading the group. Here they go. They're down the way. It's going to be close. And I think Troy Torgerson's going to inherit this lead.
That he is. And look behind him. You got one driver between him and a gaggle of his teammates. Interesting to note, Brian Helm slid through his box, Jared. Cost him a little bit of time, but luckily for him, Adam Newton came out just in front of him. He's going to at least have one partner.
This will always break up the pack. We'll give this a minute here and let this get sorted out. And looks like the Speer guys, Royal, Nearad, and Persson will come out ahead of Troy Torgerson. He's going to go to the outside.
Yeah, Torgerson had a huge momentum over the Speer Motorsports guys, but looking ahead, he's not got around the 24 yet, but he's going to be there in just a moment. And there he goes around. But at least the Speer Motorsports drivers, they're going to be caught up to the rear end of this field, whereas a lot of other different teams, they're not quite so lucky, Jared.
Battling, but settling out, and looks like we're going to have about a 10-car breakaway, Dale Nearad being the last of that group. The second group, led by TJ Bartell in 11th. He's got Adam Newton, Brian Helm on his back bumper, along with Mark Figueroa, Josh Johnson, Rachel Hunt in that group. Third group, Tony Solari, led by Brodie Hannah, Kenneth Schultz, Wayne Grossi in that group, catching Ralph Nolan as well.
Looking back through the field, you have to go all the way back to 30th to find Richie Coy and that number 19 machine after missing his pit stop.
So let's take a look and see what happened to Andrew Poliski coming in pit road, because that's where everything kind of broke down. So here comes Andrew on pit road. Hot, hot, hot. Oh, he locks it up. He misses, he hits the cone, so that's a penalty for the 96 machine. Zach McDaniel's there, and it looks like he locks it down. And that's confusing. I don't know what happened to... Oh, he missed his pit. He missed his pit. I just briefly saw at the top of the screen, Chris. He missed his pit and had to reset.
Wow, Jared. We talked about it as one of the keys of the race, being able to get on and off the pit road here easily and safely. And those two drivers just showing you how difficult it is to get slowed down at this huge, huge track. It's really difficult. You're going from 200 miles an hour all the way down to 55, Jared. These cars, 3,400 pounds, they're not easy to slow down, especially with this package. You have a lot smaller brake here than you would at, say, a short track.
Zach McDaniel, because of missing his pit stall, he's going to come out in 33rd. Casey Mullen with that penalty, you'll see him at the top of your screen in that kind of gray 32. The leaders are on his back bumper, so he is about to go a lap down. Just ahead of him, Josh Mayu had a penalty. He is going to get a lap down, and Richie Coy just ahead of those guys. They're only going to be on the lead lap probably another maybe 5 laps at best.
But up front, Jared, Troy Torgerson has taken control of this race from the Speer Motorsports drivers, and you can see they're catching up on that lap down car, or soon to be lap down car of Casey McMullen, and they are going to fly by him. All that the Casey McMullen's going to hope to do is to get in line with these drivers and be able to run around here and end up getting the lucky dog position here and hope for a caution.
So McMullen is the lucky dog, but don't forget, Josh Mayu is about 4 seconds ahead of this group. And Richie Coy is about 10 seconds ahead of this group, both by themselves. So likely Casey Mullen will need to fight his way back to the lead lap somehow, some way. Chad Lang is the last driver. We haven't talked a lot about him tonight. He is the last driver, kind of in a pack. He's back there with Jeff Bratton, Mike Watts, Brandon Elder, and Steve Loomis. They have about 3 seconds till they're catching McDaniel, Staubitz, and Williford. And those guys are about 4 seconds behind Nolan, Grassi, Schultz, Hannah, and Solari, which is basically 19th, 18th through 22nd.
And Jared, this pit stop sequence has really divided this field. Now it's a lot of working with the drivers that are with you to just get back up to this lead group. And the more cars that join that lead pack, the harder it's going to be to catch them up.
It's been a crazy night so far. Figueroa dropping out of this second group, or third group, apologies. That's got Dean Doucet, Rachel Hunt, Brian Helm, Mark Figueroa, Josh Johnson, Newton, and Bartel. That is the second group. Our lead group is 10 drivers. They have about a 2.5 second lead as they are coming up now on Josh Mayu to put him a lap down as well.
And Mayhew will do whatever he possibly can to try to blend into this pack right in front of Casey McMullen. Not going to be an easy feat here tonight. And you can see Casey McMullen is at the back of this pack. So if he's able to figure out a way to get around McMullen, that's his only shot of getting back on the lead lap here quickly. But even doing so, Jared, we mentioned it, you've got Richie Coy up ahead that these leaders are going to be catching here probably in the next, I think, about 3 laps.
There's Richie Coy in 3 and 4 by himself. Just drove past his pit stall. And that's difficult. I mean, that's when you have your warm-up session. FTSR does it. There you go. You saw, what was that, about 3 seconds on screen there between Coy and Torgerson. So it's not going to be long for Richie Coy. But you have that warm-up session here in FTSR. That's your opportunity to check pits. Just maybe something missed in the check down from the crew chief.
Well, that, or one of the great and also terrible things about iRacing is that you can be talking to teammates, Jared. You have a lot more people that are in your radio instead of just the 2 voices that you would hear if you're an actual driver. So that makes it all that much more difficult as well. If someone starts talking to you as you're coming down pit road, talking about strategy, you can easily miss your pit stall.
So Richie Coy back there. It is 30 seconds to Chad Lang, who is would now be the next driver last driver on the lead lap when they catch Coy here in pretty much a matter of seconds here. As Coy is way up there, you see him on the screen now at this point in time. So there you go. Josh Mayu, unfortunately, not able to latch onto the back of this group, Chris. He is going to be the segue between the first group and the second group, as TJ Bartel now already catching up to the back of the O2 machine.
And Jared, that kind of is going to give help to that second group if they can get right up to the back of him and hopefully push him all the way back to the lead group. Electing to go to the outside is TJ Bartel in the 88 with Adam Newton behind him. If he's able to get into this group, he still has an opportunity to get close up to McMullen. Now, up ahead, though, Richie Coy going to go a lap down. He's going to have to do some pretty aggressive side drafting to be able to stay up here. And actually, he ends up... No, sorry, excuse me. You can see him right there. He's now pretty much alongside Casey McMullen, are going to be shortly. So he's not going to be able to get in front of McMullen, hoping to get behind him and stay hooked up to this group. But it's definitely not going to be easy. You can see McMullen already has about 4 or 5 car lengths on him.
So Richie Coy there. This is bad news for some playoff drivers. 30th and 31st, trapped a lap down for McMullen and Coy, both drivers. We're above the cut line, but not guaranteed a spot in the round of 8 by any means yet. So it's going to be a tough trudge for those drivers back. And you see that second group, Chris, they have cut down the gap to under 2 seconds now. TJ Bartel leading that group in that 88 machine, just doing a great job out front there. And that third group, Chris, of Tony Solari, Mark Figueroa, Brodie Hannah, they have caught up now. So we have a large second group making inroads to the top.
That they are, and Jared, when they get up there, they're going to have a little bit of a run. It'll be interesting to see if they just elect to tuck in behind this group or if they decide they're going to make their way to the front here. We mentioned that they needed at least 2 stops here. So really it's all about whether or not they want to be aggressive and get up here and try to lead some laps or not, because we know we can expect them to be pitting roughly on lap 62 to 64.
Ralph Nolan also dropped from this second group or third group. He was on the back end of Kenneth Schultz and got dropped. He is in no man's land in 24, so not a good night for Ralph Nolan Jr. there. But this second group, Chris, they are catching that first group. And we're going to have another 20-car pack here in just a moment, or 21-car pack here in a matter of moments. TJ Bartel doing a great job leading that second group. 1.5 seconds between him and Dale Nearad right now.
And Jared, they pretty much got that group to lock on the yellow line all the way around here, shortest way around the track, but also they're not going up and off of the yellow line. As I say that, you can see the 95 machine, or sorry, the 05 machine there going off of the apron there. Oh, TJ Bartel almost sideways coming out of the corner.
I think he got a little help from Adam Newton there, got right on the back bumper, and that's you guys are making such big inroads. Don't give it up now. And that's going to cost him some time because Bartel had to get out of the gas. So he's actually, they've gotten that time back and a little bit more now at this point. But they were making heavy inroads here for about 20 laps until we pit again, Chris.
And Jared, looking at TJ Bartel, that car looks pretty steady. It's not weaving around the track here. He's able to pretty much keep that thing locked to where he wants to go and get the good pushes from the 20 machine behind him. You can see they're pretty much locked bumpers even through the corner, Jared, which is really hard to do at a super speedway track like Talladega and Daytona.
Gap down to 1.1. Let's look out the back of Dale Nearad's machine. Oh, he's got Casey Mullen, so that's not going to help us. Let's look out the back of Richie Coy's machine. So there you go. So it's a little less than 1 second from Bartel to Nearad. It's even less, and I think he's got the draft on Richie Coy now at this point.
Yeah, Richie Coy caught the apron, and you can see the rear end of that car wiggle, and as soon as it did, it was like immediate that TJ Bartel was in the draft, and he's all the way up to the back bumper of Richie Coy now to make it a 22-car pack with 3 cars in this pack a lap down.
Yeah, 21 car on the lead lap in this pack, plus 2 cars that are a lap down, so 23 cars there. Donnie Staubitz 10 seconds back. That group is getting caught by another group led by Brandon Elder, Steve Loomis, Mike Watts, Jeff Bratton, Chad Lang, all in that group. So that's going to be about a 7-car group. I don't think they're going to make great inroads to this lead group. But now Troy Torgerson's got to look in his mirror because now this is a 21 lap lead lap car pack he's on now.
And interesting to note, TJ Bartel elected to get right up to Richie Coy, but did not decide to go to the outside and make it too wide here, trying to battle for position. I'm assuming, Jerry, that these drivers, they're just trying to ride around to that second pit stop that we know is coming.
Yeah, nobody making any moves, but this has paid off for Tony Solari and Brodie Hannah. They were last, if not the last cars coming into the pits, and they have made their way up into the top 20 thanks to the sequence of pit stops. So good job by the Fury Motorsports drivers there. Tony Solari having a great night here in the 74 machine after starting in 31st. Wayne Grossi came in the pits in 19th, came out of the pits in 20th, so he's done good. And I do see Josh Mayhew is actually still in this group, so there's 3 lap down cars, so this pack is 24 cars. And Chris, you look back, Donnie Staubitz, Sher Williford, and Ralph Nolan Jr. I mean, that has got to be the worst feeling in the world, being off the back of this lead group and just kind of having to drive and hope you get caught.
That it is. And you can see that all 3 of those drivers, really, they're not all in a single file line, Jared, and that's really kind of hurting their case as they're losing time to that lead pack, which is allowing the cars behind them to try to catch up to them. It's maybe a little bit of a strategy move on these guys' part of knowing that their strength in numbers and trying to get that next group to connect with them.
But right now, back up front, Troy Torgerson, as we were just past halfway, he is leading. Our opening stanza was led by Ronnie Royal. He led all the way up until lap 33 when he pitted. Then it cycled around to Troy Torgerson, who has led since then. So right now, Troy Torgerson, he wants to stay out here. If he's able to lead until this the next sequence of pit stops and somebody other than Ronnie Royal takes over the lead, he could clinch that extra bonus point for leading the most laps, Chris. That could be huge in the playoffs.
And Jared, we'll have to look at the time of Torgerson and Royal and see exactly how much time both of those drivers spent on pit road to see exactly how that lead was given up by Ronnie Royal and those Speer Motorsports drivers, because really that aggressiveness on and off the pit road, that could be the race smooth.
Let's take a look at those right now. And Chris, you see it there. Torgerson at 14.5 pit time, 41.4 on pits. Steven Vrooman actually very quick at 13.8. We look back to Ronnie Royal, 15.1, Chris, 42.5 on pit road. So a very slow stop for Ronnie Royal back there in 8th. We got some battling back here, too.
And that's the difference between leading this race and being farther back in the pack. Is now we're 3 wide back here with Rachel Hunt, and I believe that's Richie Coy, as Richie Coy is looking to try to do whatever he possibly can to get up there in front of Casey McMullen.
Richie Coy dropped, and he is being dropped hard, Chris. I don't think that he got damaged. I don't see any indications here, but he is not able to stick on the back of these guys, and Richie Coy is dropping behind Josh Mayu, so he has now actually lost a spot on the track in the process of this whole thing. Figueroa giving Dean Doucet a shot. Dean Doucet had to wiggle out of that one.
Had to wiggle out of it, and in the process had to check up just so he didn't get back of Rachel Hunt. Rachel Hunt is all over the track back there trying to do some pretty aggressive side drafting. She dips down back in line here. Andrew Poliski on the high groove there after his unfortunate mistake on pit road. All these drivers getting around cleanly, but that was almost a little bit of a pucker moment as these drivers almost went 3 wide to get around him.
Dean Doucet actually dropped all the way to the end of this field. Richie Coy picks him up, and Andrew Poliski will drop onto the back, so that gives us a 25-car pack at this point in time. But Rachel Hunt, aggressive, forced her way down in front of Kenneth Schultz there. We'll see how that comes back as the race goes on. Figueroa trying to make something happen with his Key2B teammate Josh Mayu there, but they decide against it. 52 laps in the book as Troy Torgerson hits the line right there. Chris, a lot of time still left, but not really. 12 to 13 laps, these guys are going to be coming back on pit road.
That they are, Jared. And a lot of different drivers in this are hoping for a caution here, or at least 3 of them that we know of that are hoping to get a quick caution here and hope to get their lap back. But right now, it does not matter. Troy Torgerson, your leader up here, just kind of going around this track, trying to lock up the most laps led here, expecting these drivers to come to pit road within the next 10 laps or so to start their second green flag if we remain under green here. But that's kind of playing into the hands of some of these drivers that have been practicing getting on and off of pit road.
Now, Chris, let me ask you this. If you're Richie Coy, if you're Josh Mayu, you're a lap down, you can try to pass Casey McMullen, but if you don't pass Casey McMullen, is there a chance that you gamble and stay out, take a wave around if a caution comes out, and then try to get yourself a quick caution to get yourself back on the lead lap that way? Or do you kind of just have to play your cards and just stay where you're at?
Jared, actually, if I'm a lap down here, I'm communicating with those drivers that are 1 lap down with me. As much as I want to be racing them for 10, more importantly, I want to talk to them, communicate. When do we want to go in and pit? I want to be pitting with different group, because what I would want to do is stay out as long as possible. Hope that when these drivers are trying to make it to pit road that they collect another driver and a caution comes out. That's what my hope would be. To go into a pit road with the same group that you went in there. You didn't do good for the first time. What makes you think you can do it the second time?
Yeah, these guys doing a great job there. Torgerson leading over Steven Vrooman. Now, you look at our board there. The drivers in gray, they are playoff drivers. Bernard Persson, the only one of those that's locked into the next round. Vrooman, Benedict, McCanny, and Allen, who are both eliminated, were playoff drivers but eliminated in the first round. They have nothing to lose. All these guys that aren't in gray, they can play big spoilers today at this track. We look at the earlier this week, we had multiple time winners in Xfinity and Truck Series for full throttle sim races. So no first time winners getting over and winning the race this week like we saw in the real life NASCAR events. But tonight could be different as we have 4 drivers looking for a win. Vrooman and Benedict have never won a FTSR Cup Series race. Neither has Lane Allen, the longest dry spell of 118 races for that 14 machine.
And Jared, same thing happened last week at Las Vegas. We had at one point in time 6 of the top 10 drivers were non-playoff drivers. Same deal here tonight, just by strategy and willpower. These drivers getting around here. I'd be starting to get a little bit less patient if I was a playoff driver and I was running, say, where Dean Doucet is, where Brodie Hannah is, those drivers back there. just because you know that there's that many cars between you and that next round of the playoffs.
And Chris, I wanted to highlight Donnie Staubitz. He has cut that gap down from 11.5 seconds down to under 8 seconds between him and Dean Doucet. And he is not. He has also prevented Brandon Elder and Stephen Loomis, that second group there, from catching up to him. Unbelievable job. These three drivers, Staubitz, Williford, and Nolan, have been able to pull ahead of about a 7-car pack, and they're also chasing down Dean Doucet, now down to 7.5 seconds. They could still not be out of this thing yet.
Absolutely, Jared. As soon as we saw a couple of those lead lap cars starting to battle 2 and 3 wide, this group really kicked up the gear and started putting down some pretty solid lap times. And now they've been able to just keep it completely single file here. What they weren't able to do earlier, they're able to do now, which is pretty much hug that yellow line and stay as tightly as possible. And it's really working for these drivers. Still a long way back, but a lot closer than they were.
Under 7 seconds. They gained an entire second. Let's look at the last lap times here and take a look at these drivers. So you see Dean Doucet, 49.76. Donnie Staubitz, when it comes back around, 48.68. So he is making some time up on Dean Doucet. And don't forget there are some lap traffic drivers behind Dean Doucet as well. They're on the same straightaway now.
And that whole almost a second faster, these three drivers, Jared, that comes from Dean Doucet having to check up with all that many cars out there in that lead pack. They're not able to stay in the throttle near as long as these three drivers who are pretty much flat-footing around here.
Dean Doucet has dropped off the back of this pack. Andrew Poliski behind him and Richie Coy ahead of him. That's also not helping it out. But Dean Doucet might be just kind of dragging this group out just a little bit, hoping Donnie Staubitz, one of his teammates, catches back up. Strengthen numbers there because two of his teammates are back in this by themselves here along with Ralph Nolan Jr. So this is huge. That gap has come down to 6 seconds now, Chris.
6 seconds, and with just around 5 laps until we expect to see the next set of pit stops from these drivers, Jared. They're trying to do whatever they can to catch back up and at least be with the group when we get to pitting here. And I think they'll fall just shy of it, but they may catch the draft of Andrew Poliski.
If I was those guys, I would be pitting as soon as I could because when these guys in front of them start peeling off, you're going to start losing time to those guys. So I think that they need to pit as soon as possible. I'm shocked that Brandon Elder has not been able to catch up to Ralph Nolan Jr., continuing to lose time, and that gap is now down to up above 3 seconds. So Elder, Watts, Bratton, Lang, and Loomis not losing time there to those 3 cars in front of them.
And Jared, you can actually see why as we're following along with these drivers. The 17 is not able to get to the back bumper here and push along the straightaway, and he's dipping out instead. That's making it so much harder for these drivers to be able to keep up and to make speed. So that's why the 18, the 17 are not able to get out there. They're just not running faster lap times because they're not pushing one another.
Very disorganized back here in this second group. Unfortunate for these drivers back here, but I'd say that their chances at maybe getting back in this lead group are slim to none. The gap from Doucet to Donnie Staubitz as Andrew Poliski has dropped off the back has gone down to 5 seconds now. Chris, they're gaining about a little less than a second a lap. Unbelievable job by these 3.
And next time around, Jared, we'll be in that same window expecting to see pit stops coming in the next lap to 3 laps, just like before. These drivers trying to split it up into 3 equal segments here. Once the first group comes, I think it's going to be a chain reaction, and they're going to drag the rest of the field with them.
There's Torgerson, Vrooman, Benedict, your top 3. McCanny, Allen, Terrell, Bruce, Royal, Nearad, and Person, your top 10. No real changes since pit stops. Again, that gap still maintaining between Dean Doucet and Donnie Staubitz. It is now down to 4.5 seconds. Donnie Staubitz is putting in some of the laps of his life right now, Chris.
That he is, and soon he'll be catching Andrew Poliski to help with him. You can see as we ride along here with the hood, he is right there. Now has the draft of Poliski. The one thing that's going to slow them down, Jared, as they have this huge run on Poliski, they have to figure out, as he gets out of their way, that's really going to make it a little bit better for these drivers. They're not going to have to slow down near as much.
Didn't have to slow down at all, and Poliski went high enough to not prevent to kind of prevent any side draft from happening. We got drivers on pit road or something happening ahead of us. It is. Ronnie Royal is on pit road, and there it is. Wow, what a gaggle of cars coming in. That's dangerous.
3 wide on the entry to pit road here, Jared. These drivers are going to have to get it sorted out because you do not want to end up creating an accident on pit road here. As you see the 03 and the 8 right beside one another, those are teammates. You got to figure out who's in front of who so you don't have an issue.
Did they all get in the pit? No, Bernard Person. He's the odd man out. He can't figure out where his pit stall is. Last week's winner is in trouble, and that's going to probably drop Bernard Person. Brandon Elder, did he? Wow, where did he come from? He's down and away. Jeff Broughton's down and away. These guys did a great job.
A fantastic job there by these drivers. Bernard Person missing his stall. That is a heartbreaker, man. You don't want to see something like that as we have the next group of drivers, the 74, all the way in the grass coming to pit road. Oh,
no, Brodie Hannah. Brodie Hannah had to avoid Tony Solari on pit road, had to avoid his teammate, and he misses his box and had to back up.
You can now hear the frustration pouring out of the 23 as you know that he's heartbroken seeing what happened here. We're going to watch Troy Torgerson see how he comes off of pit road, where he lands on this field as Brandon Elder is kind of leading what will be the de facto leaders of this field.
Elder missed his pit stall, so he has to come back in. That's why we saw him getting out, and he didn't stop. I don't think he made pit road speed at all there, just trying to make some time out. Tony Solari with the penalty on pit road as well. So that's going to turn the lead over to Bobby Terrell, who's coming out pit road right now. And where are those guys chasing him down? That is going to be Ronnie Royal chasing him down. There they are, Ronnie Royal right there, Chris. And they're going to go to the outside. What happened to Troy Torgerson now? Trying to figure that out.
We have a wreck. We have a huge wreck. Bobby Terrell involved.
Helm involved. Others involved. And we have all kinds of stuff going on. And you see Schultz and Grassi locking down. Good job staying out of that. First caution just after our second pit stop. And this is going to be huge. We'll have to see how this sorts out. A lot of stuff going on. But this has not been good for several drivers. But I think that's going to work out for Troy Torgerson as he had a penalty. So did Tony Solari. It's also going to work out for Casey Mullen and Richie Coy. They're all going to get back on the lead lap here, Chris. But some drivers with significant damage. Look at Lane Allen missing the entire front end. Let's take a look and see what happened to the 5 machine of Bobby Terrell right as we went away from it. Well, that's looked like Bobby Terrell just moved up. Oh, Lane Allen nowhere to go. Oh, and TJ Bartel, his teammate. Bobby Terrell comes down the track, and TJ Bartel was the guy that hit him.
And Jared, I think that was a product of bump drafting in the corner. Couldn't really see it from that angle, but it looked like Bobby Terrell had a little bit of help going through the corner.
There we go. Oh yeah, let's take a look at that again. We'd missed it just a little bit. So here we go, and he moves up the track, and yeah, Bill, I think he thought that he was going to go up and block Ronnie, and once you open that door, you can't expect it to be closed back up. Bobby Terrell, heavy impact. And then he rolls down the track, and there is his teammate there waiting for him.
And Ronnie Royal had an impressive side draft right before that happened. Those drivers were pretty much touching fenders, Jared, as the incident happened there. Luckily, he was able to avoid it, and now he walks away as the leader of this race.
Playoff implications. Let's take one more look at this wreck from Bill Benedict's view here. So there you go. Oh, yeah, Bobby Terrell just moved up the track. Bill Benedict's going to get damaged. That's unfortunate as well. So, Chris, we look at it now, and this is going to change the entire complexion of the race because I believe everybody's going to get A, caught back up, and B, get back on the lead lap, except maybe Richie Coy.
Yeah, it looks like Richie Coy is still trapped a lap down, Jared. Unfortunate for him, you can see that as he's low on the apron here, filing all the way back to the end of this group here. But a rough break for him as he's not able to catch back up and get that lead lap. He'll hope for another caution here as he is currently scored in the 29th position, the first car one lap down.
And Troy Torgerson, as all that was going on, there was a lot of things going on. We couldn't grab everything all at once, but Troy Torgerson speeding, entering pit road. He got saved by that caution. So did Tony Solari. Both those drivers would have definitely been a lap down based on their pit times of over 50 seconds, trying to get themselves on pit road too quickly there. But this is going to be huge for Donnie Staubitz. He's back in the mix. Ralph Nolan's back in the mix. It's going to be good to see what these drivers can do here now. But tough break for Bobby Terrell, a playoff driver. Lane Allen, heavy impact. Bill Benedict with damage. TJ Bartel with damage. And also Adam Newton with damage, all caught up in that wreck.
And you mentioned it, Bobby Terrell was not locked into the next round. He was on the plus side of the cut line, but now this is going to make it all that more close for the driver of the number 5.
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult for Bobby Terrell to get back out there and get some points. Richie Coy is actually about to pass him on track to get another spot. And Coy might actually get all the way up to 27th position. TJ Bartel, who was kind of an innocent bystander, looked like he missed the wreck and then didn't. He is going to be 26. So it looks like Richie Coy can move all the way up to about 27th right now as he's on pit road. We're still not stacking him up to go back green, but Ronnie Royal is going to lead him. Yes, here we go. We are stacking him up. So Ronnie Royal is going to lead it. Darren Bruce going to lead the outside line. So we got Speer Motorsports on the inside line, Chris. On the outside line, we've got K2B Motorsports. We've seen them be good here late in the season. They'd had a great run going at Michigan, had a great run going at Las Vegas as well. Mark Figueroa had some computer issues that unfortunately took him out of the race. But Darren Bruce leading that outside line. He's got Josh Johnson, his teammate, right behind him.
And Jared, you're going to need that teammate as much as possible here to push you on this restart. We've ran 65 laps green here, Jared. Now it's all going to come down to the last couple of laps here. The intensity is about to pick up here at Talladega.
Tough break for Bobby Terrell, and it's just one of those bad situations where you're trying to get locked up and make a bump or make a move, and Bobby just moved up the track just a little bit. Bill Benedict moved down the track a little bit, and bumpers did not lock, and contact was made for those drivers. But that's going to be our first caution, lap 67. All drivers can make it from here on fuel. No question about that. Richie Coy at the tail end of this group. He's waiting on Adam Newton, was trying to figure out what was going on there with the number 19 machine. He is the only playoff driver on the track that is not on the lead lap. We also have Bobby Terrell in the garage with significant damage.
Well, Jared, these drivers had a little bit of a stress-free first couple of laps over 2/3 of the race here. Now we're coming down to this last third of the race. Everything here is about the end. It's all about who gets the great pushes. You can see the pace car diving down the pit road here. This race is about to become way more intense than we've seen so far here tonight.
Royal on the inside, Darren Bruce on the outside, Josh Johnson, Dale Nearad there in the second row, Brian Helm, Rachel Hunt, Kenneth Schultz, Wayne Grossi, Brodie Hannah, and Mark Figueroa, your top 10. Coming around the tri-oval, start finish line all the way down here at the end of pit road. Flagman grabs the flag, and we are back under green here at Talladega. And a bad start by somebody in the middle of the pack. Rachel Hunt's going to change lanes. That might be before the start-finish line. I'm going to have to review that one, I'm sure. But my goodness, bad start by Darren Bruce on the outside line. Ronnie Royal gets going.
And it actually looked like she got a little help turning to the left there, Jared, from behind her. And luckily for her, there was a place for her to go.
If we didn't see that, just looked like she changed lanes. Back here, we got Ralph Nolan Jr. getting shoved down the back straightaway by Bernard Person, who, again, he looked like he was going to be out of this, Chris. The caution comes out. He's saved by that. We saw Mrs. Pitstall had to back up about 3 times to get back in there. So now the K2B guys lined up. A little bump draft through the turns. I wouldn't do that too much, fellas. Darren Bruce loose. Darren Bruce loose. The teammates got together. Darren Bruce holds on to it. How did Darren Bruce save that machine?
Holy crap. I hope he is wearing his brown pants because that was an intense corner. He was pretty much saving that thing all the way up into the tri-oval.
Ralph Nolan's eyes had to be the size of $half trying to drive through that mess, but he did a great job. Darren Bruce, an even better job holding on to that machine. Right now, it's the Speer Brigade up front. Ronnie Royal leading the inside line. Then we got Ralph Nolan trying to make something happen on that outside line there. Doesn't have a lot of help right now with Figueroa, that is Darren Bruce and Steve Loomis maybe back there? Yes, Steve Loomis. So that is that line not going anywhere right now. Adam Newton on pit road.
Those drivers in that outside groove, Jared, they just don't have enough numbers right now to go anywhere. And you can see it as the inside lane here is just freight training these drivers on that outside groove. But now, how long are you going to be willing to run around here a single file? We're at 25 to go. At this point, Jared, positions are going to start mattering.
Right now, nothing changing. Ralph Nolan dropped all the way to the back of this group. Rachel Hunt looking below the yellow line, very aggressive from the 16 machine. They're trying to look and see what she can do there. Brian Helm just in front of him. And then you have basically 4 Toyotas in the top 4 there. Figueroa, the first Chevrolet, followed by, guess who, Chris? Wayne Grossi always seems to find his way into that middle part of the top 10, and he disappears on us.
A little bit of connection issues for the number 7 machine. That's okay right now going single file, but as we get up here going 2, maybe 3 wide here at the end, that could become an issue if the 7 and another car connect to one another just because of that issue.
TJ Bartel, who got damaged in that last wreck, he is back on pit road trying to get that fixed. That's going to give another spot to Richie Coy, so move Coy up to 27th, 1 lap down. The only driver actually now 1 lap down is Adam Newton. Adam Newton is on the lead lap, so Richie Coy, the only driver, 1 lap down at the tail end of this group with Josh Mayu and Steven Vrooman, who got a little piece of damage. Tough night for Steven Vrooman, was running second when all that wreck happened, and unfortunately nowhere to go, Chris. What can these guys do up front to get around the Speer guys?
Well, you're going to have to figure out who's going to go with you when you make your move here, Jared. With 23 laps left to go, I think these drivers are going to wait until around lap 10 before they're going to start trying to make anything happen if they're further back in the pack. If you're running in the 4th, 5th, 6th position, you're not going to be willing to take your move until maybe 3 or 2 laps left to go.
Single file as far as the eye can see, but this is changes the complexion of the race. It's gotten Casey Mullen back on the lead lap. It's gotten Troy Torgerson saved from a pit road speeding penalty. And it's also got Richie Coy trapped a lap down in 27th. And Bobby Terrell still on pit road with extensive damage in 29th position. Now, he does have the opportunity maybe to gain a spot as TJ Bartel has taken his car to the garage. Unsure if he'll be able to return. But Bobby Terrell still on pit road. And we'll see what can happen. Also, Adam Newton now back on pit road again as well.
And Jared, we talked about having mistakes on pit road and off of pit road. Our top 10, you now have 3 drivers who had incidents on pit road. Brian Helm up in 3rd position. You got Bernard Persson in 8th, and Brodie Hannah cracking his way into the top 10. All 3 of those drivers had lengthy pit stops, whether it's because they missed their pit stop or had to avoid other cars on their way into their pit stop.
Richie Coy has dropped off the back along with Vrooman and Josh Mayu. So those guys have dropped off the back. Not good news for Richie Coy. He still is the leader among drivers on 1 lap down. He is the only driver 1 lap down. But you can see the distance there. Up front, it's Ronnie Royal, who has not won since Michigan last year in June. Can he get his 2nd career Cup Series win? He was a championship contender, but unfortunately had some personal issues to deal with, and he was unable to complete most of the races this year. But you can see the talent behind the 24 machine now that he's back ready to go here, leading with 2 Speer drivers tucked up behind him. Then Rachel Hunt, Figueroa, your top 5.
And looking at it, down near at Brian Helm, Hunt all want to get up here and lead this race, at least to get one of those bonus points for leading the race. But they also want to get up here so that they can lock themselves into the next round. They know next week at Charlotte is going to be a difficult one. They're going to try to do whatever they possibly can to get around Ronnie Royal. Teammates or not, Jared, it's not going to matter when that last flag flies here at Talladega.
Yeah, Ronnie Royal, nothing to gain. You have to wonder if maybe he'll, be easy on the guys behind him that need the win to advance. But I doubt it. Ronnie wants to win the races as much as anybody else. But right now he's leaving that bottom line opened a little bit. And we have back here toward the back, that's Randy McCanny and Bill Benedict trying to get a second line form with Ralph Nolan Jr., trying to get around Steve Loomis. And not really moving, Chris. That's not going to be good for that second line trying to form up.
Jared, what started that was Troy Torgerson looked to the outside to get around another driver, and as soon as he did, the teammates followed him. But unfortunately, he got clear of who he was trying to get around and dove back to the bottom, leaving his teammates stuck on the outside.
And we've seen Loomis kind of struggling with the handling on that 17, so I think they want to get around the 17 as soon as possible. And they're going to drop and leave Ralph Nolan there to stick behind the 17. But they're not going to lose the draft, at least right now. So McCanny in 20th there and Troy Torgerson 18th. This is not boding well too good for Troy Torgerson. Only gaining 9 points on Richie Coy and currently gaining about 11 points on Bobby Terrell. I don't think that's going to be enough to put him back inside the top 8.
I don't think so either, Jared, and he knows that. He wants to get up here. He's going to try to start figuring out things aggressively. You can see it again. He peeps to the outside with his teammates again, and likes to not go out there at the moment.
Randy McCanny and Bill Benedict, Ralph Nolan Jr., they're going to go up there. Will Troy Torgerson join him? No.
You can see he's contemplating it, Jared. He goes a little bit higher in the corner and then elects not to do it. It's just one of those things where he's not going up and helping his teammates. Now looks to the outside of Casey McMullen, but no help there, Jared. It's just an interesting thing going on for this 98 car. Just doesn't exactly seem like he's ready to make a move quite yet.
And I think that's a bad decision. I think if you're back here, Jeff Bratton, Chad Lang, Tony Solari, you got to start making moves sooner than later. I think it takes so much time to make a line happen. And I think a lot of times we watch these races, Chris, and these guys kind of wait around a little bit too long, and then they look at the end of the race and they're like, wow, I finished 20th and I was running 20th.
Well, and Jared, you mentioned it. He's making it more difficult for those around him. Now his teammates have pretty much lost the draft of this lead pack because he keeps leaving them out to dry like he has.
Canny and Bill Benedict do get around Loomis again. Now Ralph Nolan trying to tuck up behind Loomis to try to get that machine back up to the back of this group, but they are kind of losing some touch. Bobby Terrell back out on the racetrack. He is going to be 11 laps down. So he does have the opportunity to gain maybe 1 or 2 positions. TJ Bartell is out there running around. Well, no, he is out of the race in 28th. So Bobby Terrell might be able to gain a position back.
Now it looks like we've got that second line formed as the back of this pack. It looks like Troy Torgerson is going to try to finally start making his move.
There's Torgerson to the outside. They have dropped Nolan and Loomis, so tough break for those drivers. Here comes Troy Torgerson trying to get a move. He needs somebody else to jump up there with him. Darren Bruce would be one of those drivers that could do it, or also right ahead of him. I don't think Casey Mullen will move. He can be aggressive. Casey Mullen can be aggressive, and Troy Torgerson, again, drops to the bottom, leaves his teammates. How does that make you feel, Chris? If you're we got some guys up toward the middle of this pack. Dean Doucet and Sure Williford starting to make a move.
Jared, you ask how it makes me feel. Angry is how it makes me feel. You know that you need to get up there and make moves, and your teammate keeps ditching you. Lap after lap. At some point, they're going to go around Troy Torgerson and be like, well, you said you were coming, but you never did.
And now Jeff Bratton leading that line, and Troy Torgerson is jumping out there as well. So now they've got 4 cars out there. Can they make something happen? If Jeff Bratton can get the draft on Sherry Williford, they can make some moves here.
That they can. It's interesting to see that these cars are not quite doing any side drafting at the moment, Jared. That's really a good advantage to be able to suck up to the cars in front of you and to keep the momentum. That's making it all the more difficult for that outside line until those two groups kind of connect here.
Looking out the back of Sherwood Williford, you see there is Jeff Bratton. He is making a big head of steam with those Fords all on the outside line. Can they start making a move forward? Dean Doucet is starting to side draft, Chris.
And Dean Doucet, he's got to be the one to do it. He's got to be able to pull back the 05 machine. Just not able to do it. He has to get out of the throttle. And look what it does to that outside lane.
Dean Doucet, sure, Williford tucked up nose to tail. Bratton is there. Torgerson is there, but like you said, they are just not able to get it completely sucked up. But he did bring the 05 back to him, Chris.
That he did. Now Sherwood Williford's got to get up there as the 05 gets a little bit loose coming out of the corner, looking for another big push from Sherwood Williford in the 33 to get Dean Doucet up and past the 05, trying to catch Wayne Grossi in the 7.
Dean Doucet came into tonight almost in a must-win situation here at Talladega. He is even with the 05. He needs a side draft right in here to see if he can get it. But Bernard Person right there behind him is also a little bit loose. We look from our drone camera here, and he's going to lose all that momentum right here. Oh, Bernard Person goes to the outside.
And Bernard Person saw what that outside lane was doing.
Oh, Figueroa.
And from him, the 04 also going to go up there. These drivers, they all know what it's going to take. Figueroa wants to get up there, get that win, take the race away from those playoff drivers and be the spoiler on this race here tonight. Him and Ronnie Royal are really the only two non-playoff drivers in the top 5.
When the race comes down to it, the cream rises to the top, and here it is. Figueroa leaving the outside line, and it's all playoff drivers except Williford, Figueroa, Royal, and Johnson. They're going to catch some lap traffic, and Bernard Person shoving Figueroa down through the corner. That's Bobby Terrell way upside.
Giving a great push to the 04 machine. And you can see how aggressive these drivers are. Dean Doucet all over the 8. Has to back out of it, and the 04 just not able to keep the momentum up. Now Rachel Hunt in that lower groove with Wayne Grossi in the 7 below or behind her, really able to make the inside work through the middle of the corner. Now the run will be on the outside as Bernard Person has a huge run on the 04.
Here we come through the tri-oval. Figueroa even. That's allowed the top 3 to kind of break out ahead of this group. Can Figueroa make a move here? He's going to have to pinch these guys down a little bit more. But Wayne Grossi and Rachel Hunt, they have no help on the bottom side. There's Figueroa. He's getting the side draft now. What a job by Figueroa, but he gets tight off the corner.
Gets tight or goes up there to make sure that Rachel Hunt can't side draft him. And look what it does. He's all the way up, almost even with Brian Helm.
What a job by Mark Figueroa, the crash test dummy, the 04 machine. He's been close a couple times since he joined FTSR. Can he get shoved to the front? Bernard Person, I'm a little bit surprised he went up there to try to help out this line because he's got teammates on the bottom side.
A win's a win, Jared. That's why Bernard Person's up there, and he wants to get another victory, make it all that more hard for the drivers in the playoffs going into next week's race.
Figueroa trying to side draft again. Does a masterful job. Brian Helm gets loose on the bottom.
And Rachel Hunt has to go below the yellow line trying to get off of the throttle to not hit Brian Helm. That's going to hurt their momentum, but she gets into him pretty good at the end of the straightaway here. Now the outside lane kind of starting to lose a little bit of momentum to the inside, Jared.
It's starting to close back up. Josh Johnson now on the back of Wayne Grossi. Kenneth Schultz, though, a little bit off the back here. He's not able to catch up to Josh Johnson. That's really hurting that inside line quite a bit. Figueroa through the tri-oval, doing a great job side drafting Rachel Hunt.
Masterful job. You can see as soon as he gets the run, pulls off of Rachel Hunt so it doesn't get him stuck. Now up beside Brian Helm, he'll have to do the same thing as we're going around on a lap car here, making things all that more interesting.
And he needs to side draft a little bit better with Brian Helm through this next corner. I think that's going to be the difference, Chris. If this 04 car is going to get to the lead, he's going to have to side draft that 26 car a little bit harder than he has been. And he's leaving too much room. Way too much room.
Way too much room through the corners, Jared. Got to be able to get right there on the quarter panel. But comes with a huge risk. As you can see, Rachel Hunt again has to get all the way to the apron to not get into the back of to the back of Brian Helm.
Brian Helm. Now Figueroa with a great run through the tri-oval, side drafted masterfully through the tri-oval, but just can't seem to get it down right here, and this is where he's losing his time. He needs to pinch down right there. There he goes. What a move there, and Rachel Hunt nearly into the back of Brian Helm.
Brian Helm just seems to not have the handling in that car that he needs to right now to be up at the front of this pack behind his two teammates. That's going to make things all that more difficult for that inside line, as Figueroa is completely right side by side, door to door with Brian Helm.
There we go. This is what he needs to do there, Chris. Get right next to the door of Brian Helm. There you see Stephen Vrooman way off the back. Ralph Nolan and Steve Loomis, they're not even in the picture. That's how much time they've lost. But this is going to come down to the end. 7 laps to go at the line.
7 laps to go, Jared. And Troy Torgerson back here in the middle of all of this. He kind of waited too late, as we talked about, to be able to get that outside lane going. And now he's like, I think he's about the 7th car in that line. The 7th car, he ends up being the 6th car in line there. But that means even if they were dead even, Jared, he'd be back in 12th.
Figueroa loose in turn number 2. Bernard Persson shoving him through the corner, and that's going to lose all kinds of time for this outside line. They're going to get freight trained on the bottom. Look at all that time. He has dropped all the way back to Kenneth Schultz, who's in 7th place.
And Jared, now his only hope is that whoever in that top 5 drivers decides that they want to go out here and win this race goes to the outside and pulls that group back up there. But now if you're in that top 5, you're just hoping to stay single file here. Now you got Wayne Grassi. He's the one that's the last one single file. If anything, he's the one that goes up and makes the block on Figueroa.
Josh Johnson loose on the bottom. That's going to make you uncomfortable a little bit. Maybe he pops out. The 3 Speer cars did a great job holding off the run. We got a 3rd lane coming up. That's Troy Torgerson, McCanny, and Bill Benedict. That's deeper in the pack here. Jeff Bratton going to be the guy out there. Oh, Benedict slides into the wall. He still holds on to it.
And Rachel Hunt elects to go to that now middle line, trying her best to get up beside Helm.
There comes Rachel Hunt through the tri-oval. 5 more times is all we're going to do this. Rachel Hunt leading the outside line, trying to punch her ticket. She's 10th in points. A win would put her into the next round. This is coming down to it, Chris.
And she's all on the door of she gets sideways. She gets a little bit of a bump from the 04 in the middle of the corner, able to hang on to it. But look what it did to that entire line. Yeah,
and you saw Torgerson got to get out of the gas. Oh, and Figueroa is going to get hung out to dry here as Persson drops below. Oh, Figueroa trying to get around the outside, Chris.
He had such a run on Rachel Hunt. He thought that he would be able to get up there, get in front of her, get right back down, but not able to do so. And he just had to let that go. Falls all the way back, loses all of that time. But really, the person who's hurting the most out of all of this, Troy Torgerson, he's now found himself in the back of this lead pack.
And don't look now. This track is actually kind of dark. There's been a cloud that's kind of moved over the track. So don't adjust your screen. It is actually that dark. And look how much time Rachel Hunt has dropped here. Unbelievable.
And all the while, the top 3 drivers have not changed at all throughout all of this. Now Wayne Grassi up to the 4th position. If anything, he's got to figure out how to get around these Speer Motorsports drivers.
Bobby Terrell drops to the apron. He's going to lose another lap. He is in 28th position. That looks to be the end of his race. I don't think he can gain any more. Jeff Bratton has dropped off the back of this group, so he is not going to contend for the win at this point in time. But my goodness, Rachel Hunt, look how much time Rachel Hunt has lost, Chris. I mean, she has dropped all the way back to 8th place. You see Brodie Hannah going by her. Dean Doucet has been the guy that is not benefited at all. He was moved up, and he's stuck to the outside line, Chris, and he has dropped outside the top 10 now.
Rachel Hunt is doing everything she can, though, to side draft in the middle of the corner. Bernard Persson getting a huge bump from Dean Doucet as those drivers are all sideways and squirrely coming out of the corner, and all that's doing, Jared, is losing time to the leaders.
Somebody has got to step up to the outside, and they're going to have to do it now if they want to separate those drivers, those Speer drivers. Josh Johnson, maybe. Wayne Grassi in 4th place. Can he do something? Can he punch his ticket to the next round? Everybody back here just fighting for scraps at this point. I think they're too far back, but somebody needs to jump up there, and they need to do it in a hurry. Rachel Hunt with a head of steam coming.
She's coming, but is it too little, too late? With 2 laps left to go here, she's going to need some help if she's going to get up there. But I think what will end up happening, if she's able to get up there, you're going to see Wayne Grassi jump to the outside lane and try to break up these Speer Motorsports drivers.
Wayne Grossi has got to be the driver. Oh, and Rachel Hunt loose, and Bernard Person has to go around her.
That's it. That outside lane, it's done. At this point, you're going to have to get a run from just the draft alone if you're going to get around the Speer Motorsports drivers. The outside lane doesn't have enough time to get back up there, Jared.
Wayne Grossi, he is looking, but look at how far back Bernard Person is. He is all the way back in 10th position, battling with Solari for that 10th position. White flag in the air. Ronnie Royal lead.
Ronnie Royal. Then you've got Dale Nearad, Brian Helm, Wayne Grossi, and Josh Johnson, your top 5. Those 5 drivers, they all have got a shot to win it here, even farther back in the pack. As you can see, just how aggressive Dean Doucet is pushing Bernard Person, trying to get some momentum up in that outside lane. But I think it's not going to be it's not going to matter all that much. I think it's going to come down to the Speer Motorsports drivers. Who wants to win the most out of these drivers?
Here we come off the last turn. Bernard Person is dropped all the way back to the back. Ronnie Royal leads him down. Dale Nearad sticks to his bumper. Nobody's going to pull out. It's over. Ronnie Royal's going to win. Wow.
What a race by the Speer Motorsports drivers. Led the early part of this race. Coming down to the end of it, they dominated this last little section. Once we went back green flag here, if you were going to beat the Speer Motorsports drivers, you had to do it with a huge group on the outside lane, and no one was able to do it, Jared.
Rachel Hunt tried to make a run. Mark Figueroa tried to make a run. But Ronnie Royal was the driver that persevered and grabs his first victory of the year, his first Super Speedway win of his career. Dale Nearad second, Brian Helm third. Speer Motorsports dominated, but a good night for Wayne Grossi. He'll grab fourth, and we'll take a look at our results here in just a second as Ronnie Royal is going to burn it down. So there you have it, Ronnie Royal with the win. And you see all those drivers in gray. We had several of them finish inside the top 10. Rachel Hunt falls to 11th. Troy Torreson 14th. Look at Dean Doucet, 16th place. Last week's winner, Bernard Person, 17th. He wasn't able to make anything happen there at the end. 21 cars in that lead group, Chris. My goodness, this is going to shake up the points a little bit.
That it will, Jared. And if you're a playoff driver and you're not in the Speer Motorsport camp, you are kicking yourself from tonight. This race, you needed to get out here and make moves early to put yourself in position. And really, Jared, if you didn't lead this race early on, you didn't have a shot of leading it from those Speer Motorsports drivers at the end of the race.
Yeah, let's take a look at the unofficial. Well, let's actually look through the rest of the results. There's your top 20. Looking back at the rest of the field, there you see Ralph Nolan. He'll finish 22nd. Not a good night for him. Coy in 25th. Bobby Terrell 28th. So they're going to be the last guys here tonight at Talladega as far as playoff drivers go. Let's see the playoff standings, though. This is going to shake things up. Unofficially, Dale Nearad to the top of the board. Obviously, Bernard Person has already clinched his ticket. Nobody clinches a ticket tonight, but look at how tight it gets. Ralph Nolan now on the bubble, 8 points above Dean Doucet. Tied with Rachel Hunt. Comes down to best finish in the round. That goes to Ralph Nolan currently, thanks to his Las Vegas finish last week. Brodie Hannah puts himself back in the playoffs, and it knocks out Bobby Terrell, who drops to 11th, Chris, with a terrible run tonight.
And Jared, that's just going to set up an eventful race next week. As these drivers know going into it, there's an easy way to get yourself in there. It's going to be to finish that race on top of the field. Start practicing now. You're going to need it if you're not already in that maybe top 4 positions in the points.
Yeah, and we can pretty much at this point in time, with Dale Nearad at a 30-point lead over the cut line, he is all but locked in. I mean, depending on how many drivers we get at the Roval next week, he could be locked in as soon as that race goes to qualifying. Brian Helm and Casey Mullen could be in the same boat as well, but everybody else will have to fight it out at the Roval to guarantee their spot in the round of 8. And Chris, it's going to be exciting. We're going to hear from our top 3 drivers here tonight, but first, we're going to take a quick commercial break. All right, we are back live here tonight at Talladega Super Speedway, where the Speer Motorsports Brigade has clinched the top 3 positions, with Ronnie Royal grabbing his 2nd career win here at Talladega, Chris, and that had huge playoff implications. We talked about it. 8 drivers still competing for 6 spots de facto.
And Jared, it's going to be an incredible race next week. But right now, we've got to deal with the end of this race. I've caught up with our 3rd place, Brian Helm, in that Speer Motorsports camp. Brian, this race looked like you guys had a plan coming in here to finish 1, 2, 3 from the very beginning. Take us through the strategy from that Speer Motorsports camp.
Yeah, it was a lot about when do we pit and all that. And, we'd worked out a plan and we followed the plan, and then we ended up, hell, I even overblew the pit stop and ended up back in 3rd here. So not sure how that works out, but I keep getting 3rd.
And I have to ask, Brian, going into that pit stop sequence, you made a mistake. Bernard Person also made a mistake. The next set of pit stop, that would seem to be the only weak spot on the Speer Motorsports camp. What would it have taken to get the 26 here in Victory Lane?
I'd have had to have my teammates pull over and move out of the way, because nobody could seem to get a run on us. I mean, I'm really surprised by that. I mean, a little bit of a run there towards the end, but I mean, there was just no outside lane tonight.
Not at all. Excuse me. Not at all. It looked like you needed just a few drivers to go to that outside lane from inside the top 5, and no one was willing to do it.
Well, we'd watch people make a couple of runs on the outside, and they just never got anywhere. Or they actually, when the start of the race, that outside lane just dropped like a rock, so we're all scared to get out there.
It seemed like that outside lane was not able to really get bumper to bumper, which is what it would have taken to get alongside. It looked like at moments they were able to get alongside the 26, but nowhere near fast enough to get in front of you guys.
Yeah, that was our assessment. It's kind of like, actually, Ronnie just said after the race, he goes, "Are we really that fast, or is it just the program here?"
Absolutely. And who helps get this 26 to and from the track?
Well, the guys at Speer Motorsports, I mean, Ronnie really helps us on the speedway stuff. So, want to thank them. And I'd also like to thank you guys for broadcasting, and, the guys at the Full Throttle for putting on the races, and looking forward to next week.
Next week we head to the Roval. What can we expect from the 26 camp?
I'm just going to drive around and try to finish.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations on the P3 position here tonight. And Jared, I believe you've caught up with our 2nd place finisher on the night.
Yeah, I'm down here with Dale Nearad, who grabbed 2nd. Congratulations, Dale. Looked like a really solid team effort here at Talladega.
Thank you, Jared. Talladega is always a team effort, racing with our teammates. I have to thank Ronnie and shops making excellent setups each super speedway racing. Yeah, we pretty much had to race under control, and yeah.
Yeah, so you guys, you dominated the first stanza of the race. Then we had a pit stop. Second stanza, Troy Torgerson and his teammates kind of dominated that group. Caution comes out in the middle, toward the end or middle end of pit stops, and it cycles back around. You guys are back in the lead. Nobody could get a run on the outside of you guys. Was you guys just that strong, or was it the product of the race we had tonight?
I think it was two things. It's just one, the package being outside, especially racing on the start. I fell all the way back. You have to get like a lot of cars on the outside in order to get that thing going. Second part was, we had a really decent car tonight, and yeah.
Well, Dale, you did a great job. you got enough points tonight. Depending on how many drivers show up for the Roval next week, you could be in the points. You're 30 points above the cut line. Does that give you some breathing room heading into the Roval next week and looking to make the round of 8?
I sure hope it does. Yeah, I think I figured I wanted to really win this race, but finishing second, I'll still take. It's a really decent points night. Even though if I can't keep it on the track on Roval, hopefully I should still be able to move on.
Yeah, like I said, 30 points above the cut line right now. Very tight back there. But your two teammates, I mean, Brian Helm looks to be pretty good right now. Bernard Persson obviously won at Las Vegas next week. How far can the Speer Motorsports group go in the playoffs? I mean, you guys seem to have it figured out, being 1, 2, 3 in the point standings right now.
Oh, we're working on overdrive. Just Spears Motorsports, everybody practicing, just basically on overdrive, getting ready for these races. Obviously, a championship is on the line, so it's either we're all in or we're just not in it to win it.
Well, Dale, congratulations on your second place finish. I'm going to turn the mic over to you and let you have the last word here tonight.
First off, thanks. I have to thank Spears Motorsports for giving me the opportunity to drive here, as well as Dairy Queen, Rage Graphics, helping me out getting into these races. And yeah, that's it.
All right, Chris, that was our runner-up tonight, Dale Nearad, and I believe you caught up with Ronnie Royal, who grabs his first career Super Speedway win and his second career Cup Series victory.
Ronnie Royal playing spoiler on the playoff field here tonight. Ronnie, take us through your race here tonight and what led to this 24 being in victory lane here tonight.
Just playing the pit strategy. Last pit stop there, really setting up to try to cut it as close as possible to try to come back out ahead, which we end up doing. And that kind of the name of the game when there's a green flag run like this.
Absolutely. We saw early on in the pit stop sequences that you lost the lead to Troy Torgerson there under that first green flag pit stop. Were you at all worried at that moment?
No, we came, right back out behind him. So I knew at that point, if we just, get first on pit road within that group, that should put us back out ahead of the group. And we was able to link back up and ahead of the group, and it just timed out perfectly.
Now I have to ask, because the teammate behind you, the two teammates that finished you, are in the playoffs. At any given point, was there any thought of moving over and letting one of those two secure the win here tonight and the place in the round of 8 going forward?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of talk between the team, obviously, and they were well ahead of the points battle. So at that point, we just stayed where we was at. We actually anticipated a run coming on the outside, which never happened. So that was just trying to stay in line to hold the speed, but the run never came. So that was honestly the most shocking to me of the race.
Absolutely. And there's anyone you'd like to thank to help us get this 24 to and from the virtual track?
As first and foremost, I want to thank FTSR for putting on a great series. Brodie Hannah and all the admins, you guys on the television sides, broadcasting, that's first and foremost. But then on that, just my teammates spent the time on the tweaking the setup and was able to get the hole there. And obviously in speedway racing, I think that's very important to have that starting spot, and just day in, day out working with the setups and trying to find the most speed we can.
Absolutely. Next week we head to the Roval. That's a difficult track in and of itself. What can we expect from this 24 camp?
With the road course, for me, just trying to keep it on track. I'm not the road course specialist by no means, but been running a limited schedule here in the second half of the season, so should be. We're planning to run that race, and if I can keep it on track and finish in the top half, I'll be definitely happy with that.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations here on your victory at Talladega. Pretty much showed a dominant fashion here with the Speer Motorsports camp, leading a majority of the laps here tonight. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
And Jared, we heard it in all of those interviews. These drivers going forward to the Roval here, all they want to do is keep it on the track.
Yeah, and that's going to be something interesting because coming into the Roval, we don't have a lot of road course winners that are going to be there next week. I mean, you talk about Randy McCanny won back at Daytona, but then you had Jeff Chandler win at Sonoma and at Circuit of the Americas. Brodie Hannah grabbed a win at Watkins Glen. So there's an open door for somebody to grab a victory, Chris. And, you look at these point standings the way they are. I mean, you talk about a guy like Bobby Terrell. He's won some road course races in his career. I think next week it's almost a must-win situation for him.
Not only for him, but also for Troy Torgerson. Those two drivers, they've kind of been the favorites here all season long to get up here and potentially win this playoffs. Now they're on the outside looking in. They'll have to do everything they possibly can. And Jared, I have a feeling there's going to be a couple drivers that are spending pretty much all week in their rigs preparing for next week.
Exactly right. And you look at the point standings one more time because it is so tight back here with these drivers. Dale Nearad, depending on how many drivers come at Charlotte next week, very close to getting locked in. Even if he does run and just finish, round 20th place, he still will be moving on to the round of 8. Bernard Person already clinched. Brian Helm and Casey Mullen pretty close to clinching as well. Would probably need a top 20 finish, depending on the amount of drivers we get to officially do it. But then you got Wayne Grossi, Richie Coy, Brodie Hannah, Nolan, those guys, and it's been inconsistent from those guys on road courses. We've seen Richie Coy get some podiums. We've seen Brodie Hannah win a road course race. Ralph Nolan's finished in the top 10. Wayne Grossi's gotten some top 10s. But Rachel Hunt and Dean Doucet, they haven't had the best time on road courses, but now this week they're going to have to really put in that the effort there because it's going to be difficult in the points position they're in. 8 points below the cut line. Rachel Hunt tied right now on points outside looking in.
And Jared, it'll be an interesting race for sure, but that's all next week. Talladega here tonight, an eventful middle part of the race, or towards the end, I guess it was a 2/3 mark. But then at the end, just no one in the field had anything for the Speer Motorsports drivers.
Exactly right. Dominant performance by the Speer Motorsports drivers here tonight. Nobody clinches a spot with the victory here tonight, but it's still wide open as the teams will head to the Roval, as we've talked about. But the Truck Series here at Full Throttle Sim Racing, they're going to have their action at Charlotte Oval on Wednesday night to determine their final 8. Tomorrow night, we'll have the second round of the Kick and Asphalt playoffs. Those guys will be on their second race of their playoffs, so they're going to have that on Tuesday night. Join us there on Full Throttle TV, and then myself and Chris Speer will be back next Monday night with action from the Roval to see who will be our final 8 drivers playing for a championship. But that's going to do it from Talladega Super Speedway. I'm Jared Carr. For Chris Speer, for Talladega Super Speedway, for Full Throttle Sim Racing, we will see you guys out on the track.